Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 156th episode of the Simple Sophisticate. I'm ready. I hope you're ready. Norman's ready. Well, actually, Norman is napping at my feet. And we have a fun episode for you today. Tiffani Rogers from New York City, the New York City stylist who has been on this podcast before, returns. And we have a fun conversation beginning with our thoughts on the Met Gala that just took place this last first Monday of May. We also dive into different spring trends. She shares with us what she's seen on the streets and what to go back into your closet and reuse, as well as what are some of her favorite things to do in the city during the spring, things that you could do during your visit coming this summer as well. And last but not least, we talk about life. We're both women in our 30s, and we dive into a handful of topics that I was curious to get her opinion on, beginning with relationships, both friendship and romantic, and how we meet those people that just mesh with us. We both share our ideas on that. We also talk about getting older and loving it. There will be more than a few laughs and interesting stories that you'll want to tune in for. And with regards to the Met Gala, we had some trouble pronouncing the designer who was spotlighted at this season's gala. We got her first name right, but during our taping of the episode, we did not pronounce. In fact, we didn't even try to pronounce her last name. And for that purpose, I want to make sure that you know who we're talking about. We're talking about the designer behind Comme des Garçons, Rei Kawakubo. She is an inspiring figure in the fashion world, as well as being a CEO of her own company and doing it her own way and finding success doing so. But before I get to the interview, we have a petit plaisir at the end of this episode that is a simple spring dessert. You're going to want to run to your farmer's market, pick up these two simple ingredients, and I'll walk you through the steps very simply, but it is easy. So be sure to stay tuned at the end of today's episode. All right, now to my interview with New York City stylist and friend, Tiffani Rogers. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast. Joining us today, returning for another conversation about style, life, and anything that we want to talk about is New York City stylist Tiffani Rogers. Welcome back, Tiffani.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I am excited just to, first of all, break down different things that you're seeing on the streets in New York City and the trends as we're in the new season, spring 2017. But the listeners have enjoyed you in the past, and I'm just excited that we could make this work. So
Great.
My first question is style, because we are finally getting beautiful spring weather, and I'm curious, what are you seeing as the trends that work this season?
A lot of color, which is, shocking for New York. Yeah, I feel like everybody is embracing color. I feel like the color of the moment is yellow. I don't know if that's, retail driven but I feel like a lot of yellow I'm seeing color on the streets. I feel like also too, I'm seeing a lot of repeat trends. And again, I mean, who knows? I always like, the business and, economic side of things. I always look for like, what are people buying? What are stores showing? And I think people are a little hesitant to take risks with wardrobe. So again, we're still seeing ruffles and off the shoulders, florals, of course, stripes. So I feel like they're playing it safe, but with a little twist.
Interesting. And are you seeing, speaking of playing it safe,
Yeah.
What was I reading recently? They're looking at the trend of the 2010s, so this decade, and
Hmm.
their observation in the New York City, New York Times was that people are like kind of like you said, playing it safe, longer hems, more demure. Is that with regards to hem length?
Oh, I think you're talking. It was the article in New York Times.
Yeah,
Yeah, how people are. It's like the anti-Kardashian movement.
yeah.
Like people, which I think is great. Like people want to kind of play it safe, but also just like a little mystery. Like keep people guessing.
Exactly. Okay, so are you seeing that continuing? That you are seeing that then continuing in spring?
Yes, and not so much covered up, as conservative or not. Maybe this is like the '90s when people like wore a lot of baggy things, oversized things, but like tailored, conservative fitted.
Fitted, so the
Covered.
silhouettes.
Yeah. No, no. Remember the whole Hervé Leger
Oh
movement?
yeah, the skin tight bodycon dresses. No more of that.
No more. Right.
Okay, that makes complete sense. What was it? I always think of. I've been on a kick of following Jamie Beck, the photographer,
Oh
on
yes.
Instagram, and she always wears dresses that are very feminine. They're nipped at the waist, but they hit below her knee, and they're
Exactly. Like still showing your figure, but not giving it all away, if you know what I mean.
exactly, and it's stunning. It's absolutely
Yeah.
stunning. Okay, that's interesting.
And also, I feel like too, that's a sign. It's almost a sign of respect for yourself. It's like you're complimenting your body type, but again, you're not giving it all away. Like it's not just all like, here it is.
You and there's that confidence that's exuded when you choose to wear those kind of that.
Right. You know what to highlight. You know what to accent.
Exactly. Maybe we're just becoming savvier and more um, comfortable with our individuality too, with regards to sticking with what works. Hopefully, that's a positive shift that we're making.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe so. We'll see.
I think so.
I think there's something to be said with the ubiquity of all of the information for style, whether it's on social media or, I mean, however people get their hands on it at whatever age, we have more access to it. So maybe it is a sign of that. We're more educated. We're able to seek out what we want wherever we can get it.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that might play a role. I don't know. Speaking of trends and also annual events in New York City, the Met Gala just took place the first May of spring, or the first Monday in May, excuse me.
Mhm.
And what a unique red carpet is all I'm going to start off with, and I'm going to let you take it from there. What were your thoughts on that?
It was interesting, and I love, social media's whole take on it, which I'm sure you watch too. You know how people are commenting. I mean, it cracks me up when the people who wore the actual, and it just goes to show how marketing and PR now has taken over everything, and how like Rihanna and Pharrell Williams' wife, like the people who wore the actual designer being honored were like the most ostracized or criticized on social media. But it's like, hello, do you remember this is what the event's for? But again, to them, they think it's like, to the masses, social media, they think this is just another red carpet event. And it's like, no, this is actually honoring a designer who has an exhibit that is going to be showing this summer. And don't get me wrong, Rihanna's look was like over the top, but again, it was
In
it's
homage to, was it Comme des Garçons? Is that how you say
yeah.
it? Okay. And
Yeah, Ray. I don't even. It's her name's Ray. I can't even pronounce it.
I
I
can't
mean,
either, but I was looking up, I learned a little bit more about her because of this
yeah.
gala. And what I found fascinating was that she still owns her own company. She
Hmm.
never
And
sold it.
you know what someone tweeted, which is so true, is someone's like, you know what? She doesn't even care about tonight.
That
She's
talk
like,
about confidence and security within oneself.
yeah. She's 74 years old, but she does her art for her and her design. Very interesting in how Anna Wintour, which in a good way, she's brought such press and I'm sure lots of money to the museum, and making this like a mainstream audience for people, but at the same time it's also turned into like another advertising revenue for designers.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I kind of got a little taken aback when people were insulting the celebrities that actually wore the designer.
That is funny.
um But you know who I thought did a great job paying a tribute to the designer as well as representing his own brand was Ralph Lauren with the oversized trench coat.
I was going to talk to
Um,
you about that. Priyanka Chopra. Oh,
yes. Now that is perfection. That is like, okay, I know that's Ralph Lauren, but at the same time, he is paying respect and honor to who is being honored tonight.
that's a good point. He really did.
Yeah, but at the same, I mean, but smart too. At the same time, you're like, oh yeah, that's so Ralph Lauren, like doing an oversized trench coat gown. So I really like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And when I first saw that, first of all, you don't I haven't seen her on the red carpet very often, and so I was really excited to see her on the red carpet. And yeah, I saw the trench and I'm thinking either Burberry or da da da, and obviously it was Ralph Lauren, and then I thought, "Yep, that's pretty blatantly obvious," but it was feminine, that neckline, what they did with her neckline. I thought that was very unique, but not overdone at all.
Right, right, and very, like a nod to the designer Ray. But yeah, I mean, I love Giselle's dress. I don't know who it was. She looked great, but again, she looks great in anything.
That's true. And that one, it reminded me, that was because and since we're not a visual conversation here as far as on video, it was, remind me of that dress. I'm going to speak and then I'm going to,
Oh, yeah, it was silver, had an interesting back. And I meant to look up who she wore too, but she always wears the same designer. And Alexander, yeah, we'll have to put it in the show. Put it in the show notes.
I do remember the reason why I remember her uniqueness as far as the dress. It was simple, but obviously looked beautiful on her. Was I think her husband posted an Instagram pic of them, and I started thinking, oh, that's what she's wearing. Okay, cool. And that was the only time I saw her on the red carpet. I didn't see her on the red carpet. There was a few others. I'm curious what you think about this one. I won't share my opinion on it, but I'm curious what you think. I'll share after you share yours. Bella Hadid.
Oh God. Okay, yeah, I think that is a good example of, and good for Alexander Wang because he got a lot of press. And again, for them, it's advertising, it's press, it's marketing. But I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. It did go.
The listeners, if you haven't seen it,
Oh,
it was a
Google
bodysuit
it.
that was black mesh. Would you call it black mesh? Kind
Yes,
of
like
netted
almost like chain. It looked like chain link
chain. That's
mesh.
and it was just
Yeah,
tailored for her body only. I don't think any other body could have gotten into that. I mean, I think it was.
yeah. I don't know. I was like, okay, it's not really a tribute to the designer. I mean, it's definitely, a talker piece, and I think that's what he wanted to do.
True, and he usually always goes black, doesn't he?
Yes.
He's a black. He always has a lot of black in his collections. It seems like, at least on the runway. I okay. This is what's funny. I actually liked it, and the reason I like, and maybe it's because I'm becoming a fan of Bella Hadid, and her look is very
Oh yeah,
exotic and
beautiful.
different. Yeah, but it was simple and unique, and she just like Giselle, she wore it beautifully. But to be fair, it wasn't in a line with who or what the brand or the collection of Comme des Garçons is about. Hers is more structured, right? Unique, artistic. Has that my memory?
Yeah, yeah, and like over the top, like she's known, like for example, the Ralph Lauren oversized coat. It's like combed. She did like a lot of oversized poofy jackets. Like and art, like, and they hang in like almost like it's a very artistic way.
What'd you think of Blake Lively's feather tail dress with the
Oh,
blue feather?
beautiful,
Isn't that
beautiful.
stunning?
She's great.
She has, yeah,
Beautiful. She's always top notch. And I love how, she just had a baby, right? Or maybe it was like
that's right. No, you're right.
not too, but she embraces her curves, where I feel like she's always dressed for wherever she's at in her life, which I do appreciate of her.
Yeah, and she always looks wonderful, whether it's Cannes Film Festival or a movie premiere here in the States. Yeah, and that one she lives up to it. I didn't realize there was feathers until I looked up. I was like, oh my goodness, and they just pop with the
Yeah,
gold of the
beautiful.
breast. It was stunning. Who else caught your eye?
Honestly, I don't know if it was just I don't know if it was just like I wasn't really into it this year. I don't know. No one really caught. I just thought Blake Lively was great. I loved Giselle's dress. And again, the oversized trench. That no one else I can think of.
The list wasn't as long.
Do you feel, yeah, and do you feel like a lot of people played it safe? I don't know.
There wasn't that many people. Where was Sarah Jessica Parker?
Oh,
I kept
where
looking for
was she
her.
is the question.
Yeah, I wanted to see her take on it, but I don't
No,
know. She was.
and
I think she's taping Divorce right now, so that's probably
yeah,
why she wasn't
that
there.
was the rumor.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was always one, no matter what the theme is,
Yeah,
she will deliver.
she
So
does.
yeah, she was missed.
I was wondering where she was. And this one she played it
Oh,
safe. She didn't. It wasn't out of the box or anything, but it was simple and it looked good. Always does. Kate Hudson and Stella McCartney.
yes, I know. I love Stella.
It was simple. It was, yeah, very simple, but it was just beautiful. But it wasn't probably in line with the red carpet that was for that event.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot, the I feel like only a handful of people really paid tribute to the designer, and then I feel like a lot of people use it more, are dressing more as a red, if as if the Grammys or Oscars.
For their publicity,
But
but also for the designer that.
design, yeah, like I saw like someone was like, "Oh, so and so is wearing La Perla." I'm like, "What?"
Right. That's right. Wasn't that a card? That was Oh, wasn't that was not a
Was it
Kardashian sister? Well, she's a Kardashian sister, but she's not a Kardashian.
Kendall? Was it
Kendall.
Kendall?
I think it was. I think it was
Yeah,
one of the two
yeah.
sisters. Yeah. Interesting. No, I was just curious because yeah, I didn't do a ton for me, but there were a few that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can.
Oh, and Katy Perry, I think she wore the designer too.
Okay,
She,
okay. Oh, that's right. She had the veil, the red veil.
yes, yes. And I feel like everybody who's like, she got a lot of flack on social media. I'm like, she's wearing that because that is the designer they are honoring.
Honoring that's what this whole deal's about. It's just that now that E is turned into a red carpet event, we get everyone. Now we need to educate everyone on that.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh my goodness. So it is spring in New York City. I'm curious, what do you most enjoy doing, whether it's places to eat, places to visit for, being a tourist? What is it that you enjoy doing in New York City in the springtime?
Well, piggybacking on the Met Gala, I love because the exhibit will, the Costume Institute's fashion exhibit always launches that first Monday in May, and then is now until September. So I literally will go whenever I'm in the neighborhood but that is what I love doing in the spring. And the Met, I don't know if people know this, but the Met has a garden rooftop bar, which I've met you at once.
Oh, they've got to go. They've got to go.
I mean,
Oh,
the view's amazing.
it is.
So yeah, the Met rooftop. I highly recommend going to the Met to see the fashion exhibit and then having a drink on the rooftop and just enjoying the view. If you can get there before sunset, even better. I find myself also going downtown by the water a lot when the weather gets warmer. But I love going downtown, lots of bars and coffee shops and just walking along, especially down near Brookfield Place, which is, near One World Trade Center, which has been all redone. And it's just amazing seeing that turnaround in the last 10 years.
Is it a
Like,
bustling tourist area now beyond just the tower? Is it pretty? I've only been there a couple years ago and it was busy for that.
yeah. So now if you go, you can, walk past One World Trade Center all the way down to Brookfield Place, and even behind that, there's parks, there's a walkway. It's just amazing. I just remember like it looks so open now because I'm so used to seeing it closed for construction.
Sure, that's what I remember kind of too.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well, that would be something to check out then. So it's really, and isn't that where Condé Nast is now down there? And
oh, yep,
a handful
yep.
of those fashion and magazine mastheads, I guess you could say, down there. I think Bon Appetit's down there. I always hear him talking about it on the podcast I listen to. He's like, down here at One World Trade Center. I'm like, oh, or, oh, that's where they're at now. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of businesses are. I have a friend who just recently got a new job and his office is on the 18th floor and the view is like amazing. It's unreal.
So it sounds like that's a place to go and relax and walk and enjoy.
Yeah, and they also have little bonus. A lot of people don't know about this. And I'm a big advocate of it. They have free kayaking in the Hudson River.
I didn't realize it was free. Oh my gosh,
It
that
was
would be.
free. There's volunteers. It's amazing. I love going to the one downtown near the World Trade Center. I believe it's Pier. I can give you the link and the exact address, but they're all around the city. These like free little
Oh, I No.
kayaking posts, and people at first are like, "What? You go in the Hudson?" And it's okay, people. You're not going to die, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's the water's safe. You don't go swimming, but um,
Vantage point of the city. Oof.
yeah, and it's amazing because you have big cruise ships that go by. I mean, you stay in a certain area, but it's unreal. Like I went with my sister one time with my friend Sarah, and we were just kayaking out, and you just turn around and you look and you just see the whole skyline, and you're like, wow, like
That sounds
crazy.
lovely. I like this. You have a little bit of nature right there in New York City. Who would have thought? You can get out
Right.
there and especially free. You can't kayak free here in Bend.
Oh
So
wow.
I mean, unless you have your own. So that's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good
Yeah.
deal. You should make a tourist guide along with your shopping guide.
I,
I was just
I
thinking
know all
about
the
that.
perks.
You do. Well, and for those of you who haven't listened to our previous interviews with Tiffani, she has a Shop the City guide for Manhattan, and I'll provide a link to it on our show notes where she walks you through the neighborhoods of where to shop, what to look for, easy layout. Anyway, Tiffani, are there any new spots you're going to be adding to the guide coming up that people should know about? Kind of a preview or a peek.
Yeah. I actually came across a new consignment shop on the Upper East Side, which has an amazing Chanel collection, everything, and everything's like gently worn, again, gently worn, gently used, or never used. And literally, you would never know it was there unless. So I'll be adding that to the guide, and then hopefully, this summer, as I'm walking on foot, I am going to be adding a Brooklyn edition. So I hope to have that come out in the fall because Brooklyn is like a whole other animal.
It is. It's not exploding. It's already exploded, I think, and it just keeps being developed as far as new ideas and shops and boutiques and food. The food I hear is amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, well, let us know when the Brooklyn is ready because we'll definitely want to know about that.
I
I
will.
That's one place I have not visited, and there's a lot of places I haven't visited, but that's one place in New York City I haven't visited. So I'm curious. I would like to talk to you about just life in general because you have got it together, girl. And
Oh, thanks.
I will, and
Not perfect, but I try.
well, but you're balancing a lot, and I also know that you enjoy yourself and have fun with your friends, and or you have a balance, and you had just celebrated a birthday recently. We're both girls in our 30s. And
Yes.
so I'm curious. I'd like to start with a question by asking what are some life lessons that you've learned in your 30s so far, whether it's with balance or just life in general, how to live well?
Oh, I think in my 30s, I've definitely learned to trust myself. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, nobody knows you but you, and just being, and I think that's why I value my alone time because to just be alone, like no outside, or I mean, especially as women too, we always want opinions, advice, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you know what's right for you. So I think, yeah, and it's so funny. As I get older, I'm just like, nope, I'm very like cut and dry. Like, nope, all right, nope, that's not gonna work. All right, next, let's move it along. Right? Don't you feel like and it's almost like, and it's a blessing. I feel like it's like, oh, all right,
It simplifies things.
yeah. I'm like, ooh, this is 30. What's 40 gonna be like?
I feel the
No,
same way. I'm so excited. I agree with
yeah,
you.
no nonsense.
It's true. Well, and to that point, with regards to being having a full life, you have to make those decisions very quickly and clearly because you don't have time to waste. I mean, as far as you need to be efficient and
Yes,
you just want the things that work and that you enjoy.
absolutely. And time flies. I'm like, I can't believe I just had another birthday. I'm like, oh wow. And then too, like I really want to, I journal, but I also want to get better about journaling more often. But just I made a habit of this past year of keeping the journal from last year, and I made a habit to go back a few times and look and see what I wrote this time last year.
I do the
And
same thing. Oh my
oh my God,
gosh.
it's amazing.
What's the value that you find when you do that?
Well, for me, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know how you're not into horoscopes or astrological signs,
It's fun to
but
peek every
I'm
once in a while. I have to peek every once in a while.
okay. Well, I'm a Taurus. I'm very much a Taurus, and I feel I can be a perfectionist, and I feel like at the I the I'm not worried about the what other people are expecting of me. I expect more. Like I put more expectations on myself. So for me to like sometimes you're like, oh, I don't have it if things aren't going the way it's planned, and you're like, oh, I don't have it together. I'll like look back. Okay, where was I this time last year? And I'll look back at my journal and be like, oh wow, like I have come.
Exactly. We
I have
forget.
made progress. I have put things forward. So that's been really good for me to put myself in check and be like, okay, calm down, Tiffany. You're moving forward. It may not be like rapid pace. So that's been really helpful for me because again, I'm not influenced by other people's pressure of me, or value other people's opinion. It's more my opinion of myself.
And you're tough on yourself. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a simple thing to do. And I do too find it very reassuring because we forget. We forget
Hmm.
where we were, where our mindset was at, what we were stressing about then. And then we get a year past, like, I was stressing about that. Oh, I've got that down now. That boosts my confidence anyway when I realize, oh, well, I've got that figured out and I'm worrying about another thing, then I'll figure that out too. And that's just a
Yeah.
good boost to my confidence. That's neat that you do that as well. With regards to relationships, whether friends or romance, how do you, I don't want to say select, but your time's valuable, as you just said. So, what is it that how do you incorporate that personal aspect in your life, that much needed personal aspect in your life?
Yes, I think it definitely is me like social time, connecting with others as much as I love my own time. I can become, especially in the winter, I can become a hermit. Like I just saw a friend I hadn't seen. We went out for dinner on Saturday. We haven't seen each other since probably December, and we live in the same neighborhood. And yeah, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm coming out of hibernation. She's But and after we had a great dinner and now we know ourselves. We're like, okay, we're gonna pick a day next month, and that like we picked a Saturday for June, and then we're gonna because I was like, once it's in the calendar, fine. It's not like okay, we'll see you later.
Right, right.
So I've
It's for
learned to
sure.
like, yeah, if I have enough head time, but you need to have that balance. I feel like with me, I have a good intuition or a feeling of who I want to spend my time with, how or certain like I have certain friends where I can only take small, right? You can only take small doses of.
You love
Whereas
them to death, but you're just yeah, you're just a few. Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, you know your limit. And then you have other friends who are gonna what do you call it? Like fill up your cup. Like who you just when you get together with them, you're gonna just sit, talk about life, and you're gonna feel a lot better about things. So I always make time for those. But I also value having my own time. Like I said, with my pajama Sundays,
I
like
love
I
those,
try
by
to.
the way, on your blog. When you do those, I
Oh,
love them.
thank you.
Just a reminder to
I
slow
always try to
down.
keep Sundays open to myself,
That's smart.
like that. Yeah, that one day where there's nothing scheduled.
That's actually a very good idea. So that's an entire day you religiously, for the most part, say, no, I'm not going to make anything permanent. This is going to be my recharge day kind of a thing.
Yep, absolutely. And if someone's like, "Oh, let's get together for brunch." Like I had friends who were like, "Oh," and I hadn't seen them again in a while, and they're like, "We're going to get together for brunch on Sunday. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "You know what? Yeah. One, I haven't seen them, and two, it's only a couple hours. I'll still have the rest of my day,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's going to fill up my cup to have
So it's part
brunch
of
with
that
them."
rejuvenation. That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. That's a good idea. And that's the truth. It's being with those people who, when you walk away, you're like, oh, breath of fresh air. It was just, just either calms you down or lifts you up or inspires you or, boosts you if you're having whatever it is. It just, those are the people that, yeah, you can add them to your schedule unexpectedly or break maybe a routine that you need to stick to just because it's going to actually fuel you.
Yes.
Exactly. I've found with regards to relationships, friendships, and otherwise, especially since I've been here in Bend, is that just to as far as meeting new people, for me being in a new town, And I'm curious, with you living in a big city, I just find I don't have to search people out. I just go do what I enjoy doing. I find that to be the most authentic way to meet people that I might have an opportunity to truly connect with. What has been your experience with meeting people in the big city of New York, which you've lived in for a while, but it's still a
Yeah.
huge city. So I'm curious, how did you meet your friends? What's your approach to that?
Yeah, no, you're right. It is interesting. Like when you're just living your own life and doing what you do, you're going to attract the people who are a good fit for you. And yeah, it's so funny. So yeah, my birthday, I had a friend from childhood. We grew up together. She's my neighbor. And we went to my friend Ange, who owns the Beatrice Inn, this chef. I don't know if you've met. No. But so she's one of my New York friends. And so my good friend Raquel from home was like, "Oh, how did you meet Ange?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, how did we meet?" And it was through another friend who lives in my neighborhood. She, which who I met her through my old roommate. They were all from Seattle. And they didn't know each other though in Seattle. Then they moved here and they had a mutual friend who was like, "Oh, my friend so and so and so and so moved to New York. You guys should all get together." And isn't that amazing? And we've all been friends for like the last 8 years.
That's fantastic. So, and yeah, so right there, you have people that saw a similarity between the people and said, ah, they should meet. And just by being yourself, you met people.
Yes, and I feel like, through work stuff, through, I have friends who work in the fashion industry more on either the textile side or the business aspect, and they might have coworkers who are like, "Oh, you would really get along with too. Let me introduce you." And so we've met through that. So yeah, I do. I find it very organic. I never really seek out friendships, but I'm always open to. I love meeting new people.
Well, you have a very inviting, engaging energy. That's one thing I
Oh,
always
thank
feel when I'm around you, and so I can see that that would be. People would sense the sincerity, and I think that's the key part, the sincerity of it all.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I, but I mean, as far as I mean, I have nothing against seeking people out online and whatnot. With Meetup Group, that's a perfect example for me. Some people that I met up here in Bend was through the Meetup app, which is just basically like interest, but you're new to a town.
Yeah.
What do I do? And they have meetups for everything, and it's just a way of finding people that enjoy, say, for me, speaking French or for cooking and all these things. But that's it. That's all it is. What's your interest, and that's all you go there for. And there's all different ages of people. But beyond that, I don't really use the internet to meet people because I find, for me, that makes me uncomfortable. Number one.
Yes, I can't do dating online. I mean, no disrespect to anyone who's done it.
Yeah, exactly. I know it works, and people will feel more comfortable doing it online. It's just not for me.
No, yeah, I feel the same way.
It might just be the more introverted person that I am, the privacy part of me that I just am very protective. But I think part of it is I also know that I want to meet someone, whether it's dating or friendship, on the level where we're actually choosing to be there or do something that we would be there doing anyway. I'm not going shopping for them online. You know what I mean?
Right. I feel like my take on it is I feel like, oh my God, I have enough I have a hard enough time updating my Instagram and Facebook pages. To manage another account, that was my thing. I was like, I can't manage. This is like another job. And then two, I feel like what I have a really good sense about people when I meet them in person. Like I don't know if it's like this may be a little woo woo, but and like I sense people's energy. Like I kind of have a good like intuition, right? Where I can just be like, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you're very observant with style, and then that translates into people because you're aware of those little details that maybe other people aren't aware of. You have that ability to see that. And I don't think everyone has that. I think that is a strength of certain individuals, and that's definitely your strength.
Yeah. So my preference is in person.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I'm with you on that. And again, that's nothing against people who choose to do that online. I do have friends who do that online. They date and they whatnot, and they love it. It's their personality, it's their schedule
Yeah.
too, and it's what they feel most comfortable with. And I think that's the key, just figuring out what's most comfortable for you, and not doing it because so-and-so said, well, this is how it works. It's like, well, maybe that's how it worked for you, but it didn't work for me that way. I think that's important to listen, as you said at the very beginning of this conversation about relationship or life. Listen to yourself. Trust yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
It really is. And that's why I'm getting excited for 42. 40 as well. I'm excited about that decade because, like you said, we learn so much.
Oh, I was like, wait, what? What are you doing 42?
No, I'm not going to be 42, but in 2 years I'll be 40, and I'm excited. I'm excited for right now, but
Yeah.
I'm not sitting there going, oh God, 40. I'm like, yeah, like you said earlier, bring
I
it
hear
on.
ya. Yeah.
If I keep figuring this thing out called life, then woohoo.
Absolutely. I remember, I think I was turning 30 or I was about to turn 30, and my dance teacher, she was like 10 years older than us, and we're still all very close. And we were getting together for her 40th birthday. So this was years ago. And I remember being like, ooh, because she looks great. She's happy with life. Like, and she, she's her own person. And I remember saying like, oh my God, I can't wait to turn 40. And she was like, Tiffani, turn 30 first. But I was just like, wow, if that's 40, like sign me up. And I feel like even in my 20s, every year you get older and wiser. You learn if you're learning from your mistakes, then why not?
Exactly. And I also feel, and I think we're more educated as just a population. And so we are more aware of what happens when we eat certain things or don't do certain exercises or whatever it may be. And so we see the benefits of doing those things on our minds and our bodies and our way of enjoying life. And as I look at the women who are 40, who was it that just turned 50 recently, or who's going to be turning 50? Was it, Veep, Julie Louis-Dreyfus. I think she's just over 50 or something like that. And I just want to say, dang,
Wow.
she just looks great. And it's one of those things and she's comfortable in her body. She's rocking it in her career. She knows what clothing looks good on her. I just always enjoy watching what clothes they put her in on Veep on HBO.
Mhm.
She just looks great.
Yeah.
The dresses fit her curves and whatnot, and she's still, it's age appropriate, but at the same time, it's beautiful on her. So it's one of those things where I think we're shifting what any age looks like, and we can own that age, whatever it is. It's not what your grandmother would have been maybe doing at that age, or your great grandmother, whatever it may be. I think that's
exactly.
empowering.
I will send you a link to, Norma Kamali, the fashion designer. She just turned, I couldn't even believe it. I will find you the link to this video. I think she did it for Allure magazine. I think, oh my God, I'm going to Google her age. I don't even want to get it wrong. But it's something 71 years old.
Wow. And she's looking
71. And she talks about in the video, like how, every year she's got older, she takes better care of herself. She takes, her inner self as well as her outer self. And I was just like, wow, if that's 70, sign me up.
So you keep jumping ahead. I love this. It was 40 before. Now it's 70.
Now I'm ready for 70.
I love it.
I will send you the link to that video because it's amazing. I was just like, wow, it's a beautiful interview. And she's so confident and it's great.
Well, thank you for sharing that one with us. I am excited to see it and be further inspired. On that note, I want to end us there because that's a happy note. Any age is amazing and beautiful if you make it so and you keep striving forward. Thank you, Tiffani, for stopping by the podcast again. I'm so excited.
My pleasure.
And for listeners, I will put all the links up that we talked about. I will get some of those pictures up too, and share with you the link to her New York City shopping guide, and anything else that we mentioned or needed to share that we didn't dive into deep enough, I will make sure it's on the show notes. And one quick offering that Tiffani has extended exclusively to the Simple Sophisticate listeners and the Simply Luxurious Life readers is that if you want that Shop the City guide that she has custom created, her experience, hands-on, walked into all these shops, and as she mentioned earlier, that a new addition she's going to add on the Upper East Side, the consignment shop, you can save 10% off the price. The download is yours to keep forever. You just purchase it, download it to your desktop, print it out if you need to, and it's for the entire island of Manhattan. Simply put in the promo code SimplyLux, all caps, SIMPLYLUX, for 10% off of Style by Tiffany's Shop the City Guide of Manhattan. Now, for those show notes of all the different details, go to the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 156. And to visit Tiffani Rogers, go to her website, Style by Tiffani, that's Tiffani with an I.com. You can check out her services. I highly recommend you follow her blog. She recently just actually shared a post about wardrobe maintenance, tips to make your clothing last longer. And I actually shared it on last week's This and That. It's wonderful tips and tricks, specific products that she recommends, and how to take care of those investments. We spend the money. We want these clothes to last. How do we do that? She's the woman who can help you figure it out. So visit her at stylebytiffani.com. That's Tiffani with an I to learn more about Tiffani Rogers. But now we have one more thing to get to, and that would be this week's Petit Plaisir. I'll see you in just a few. Welcome back. This week's Petit Plaisir is inspired by a cookbook called The Art of Pie by Kate McDermott. And I took one of her pie recipes that was discussed in the New York Times recently, and I tweaked it and made it into a crostata. The beautiful part about this is that if you love pie, then you can still make pie. If you love tarts, you can still make tarts. It's all a matter of how much dough you need and what kind of structure that you want. So I chose to do a crostata. Very rustic, very simple, and something to be enjoyed outside, just as a kind of a welcoming of this beautiful weather we've been having, and also maybe unconsciously so I didn't have to clean as many dishes. I don't know. Anyway, this is a recipe that involves one primary fruit that occurs in early spring and a pairing that I don't usually do, but discovered with this recipe that it is worth putting on my go-to dessert list. What is it? It is a blueberry and rhubarb crostata. And it just so happened that this past weekend, and you may have followed me on Instagram and you saw this, I wanted to go check and see if my local produce stand was open for the season. And it just so happened it just opened this past Saturday. You do not know how excited I was. I probably look like a little giddy kid in there. I just smile from ear to ear and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, all this fresh produce from around our state. Anyway, I picked up some fresh rhubarb, some fresh blueberries, and later that day, I made a blueberry rhubarb crostata. It is something that balances that sweet, but also that tart. And since the blueberries aren't that sweet, they're very muted. I like that because it really balances that sharp tart flavor of the rhubarb. Now, I usually make, and I grew up with, strawberry rhubarb pies and tarts, and I still love those. And you can get my recipe for those on today's show notes, or go to the recipe menu on the blog, the simplyluxuriouslife.com. But this recipe with the blueberries, it's just a nice shift. And because the fruit was fresh, I tweaked the recipe a little bit more to reduce the sugar that I add from 3/4 of a cup to 1/3. You really just don't need that much extra sugar because the fruit does it for us. So you're going to want to make your dough. The dough is, I'm going to give you the recipe for a single layer. So if you're doing a crostata or tart without a top, then this is the amount that you'll want. But if you want to make a pie, you just simply double the recipe that you're going to find on the show notes for the dough. And then you'll want to chill that for 30 minutes at a minimum. And while the dough is chilling, or just before you take the dough out of the fridge, whenever you do that, mix up your fruit mixture, which is just the blueberries, the rhubarb. You want about twice as much rhubarb than blueberries. Again, it's all kind of relative. If you have more blueberries, add a few more. It's not going to hurt you. Add a little bit of flour, about 3 tablespoons, 1/3 a cup of sugar, a dash of freshly grated nutmeg, 1 teaspoon fresh lemon juice, and a pinch of salt, and you just toss that up so it's evenly mixed up. Set that aside for a moment because then you're going to make the crumble. And this is my favorite topping for fresh fruit tarts. Now, this is my family's recipe that my mom actually got from our neighbor Her name was May, so we call it May's crumble topping. It is delicious. It's so simple, and I always default to this crumble topping over any other recipe I have ever read or seen. It's number one simple, but it's just the right balance of sweet and crunch and not too clumpy. It's just May knew what she was doing. She lived out in the country next to us, and she knew how to cook and she knew how to bake. So I want to thank you, May, wherever you are, for giving us this recipe. But all it entails is melting 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter in a small saucepan on top of the stove. Then while that's melting, the heat should be low to medium. While that's melting in a small bowl, mix together 1/3 cup flour, 1/3 cup oatmeal, 2 tablespoons sugar, 2 tablespoons brown sugar, and a half a teaspoon salt. Then mix it up so it's all evenly distributed. And when the butter has melted in the saucepan, remove it from the heat, toss in the dry ingredients, and mix it all up so it's just the right consistency for putting on top of your filling once you put the filling on top of the rolled out dough. Now is when you want to pull out that dough, roll it out to about between 1/4 and 1/8 thickness. Now you're going to see in my pictures that I went a little too thin in areas and it got a little bit leaky. Did not hurt the flavor. The crostata still stayed intact, but I should have made it a little smaller. However, this crust is perfect. It has a little bit of sweet in it, has a whole lot of butter in it, and it has the right flaky consistency that you're going to want. So you roll it out to about 1/4 to 1/8 inch consistency all the way around. Because it's a crostata, you don't have to make it a prescribed size, which is what I love. You can even make mini crostatas if you want. Just leave about 2 to 3 inches clear around the entire circle of the crostata's dough and put the filling in the middle so that you can fold it. And so then you will put the fruit in the middle. Put about a half a tablespoon of unsalted butter, finely sliced up. Just put it on top of the fruit. And then put the crumble all over the entire filling so that when you do put the edges up, the edges kind of cover up the edges of the filling that also has the little bit of crumble on it. So it's like this wonderful surprise inside. But then you also get to see part of the topping as well, and you'll see that in my pictures. Now you'll want to fold that up and you'll see the edges are going to kind of overlap each other as you go around. Then brush the dough edges with egg white mixed up with a little bit of water and put it in the oven at 425 degrees for about 20 minutes. Then you're going to reduce the heat to 375 for about 30 to 35 minutes until the crust is lovely golden brown, a little bit darker than golden brown for me, but whatever you prefer. And you'll see the filling be slightly bubbling, not too much. Then you remove it from the oven, let it cool a little bit, but you still want to eat it warm. You can always eat it cold, obviously, and serve with your favorite ice cream. Now, I just want to give a shout out to one of our local Bend businesses. They make gelato here. The company is called Bonta, and they actually sell their ice cream in our local grocery shops, which is where I go and pick it up. And I was looking for the salted vanilla ice cream, which I love, and they were out. So I picked up their tremolo lavender and honey, and it was the perfect vanilla blend of flavors on top of this lovely spring fruit dessert. But whatever ice cream you want, maybe no ice cream, cup of hot tea, cup of hot coffee, whatever, and then you can just enjoy. Serve 6 people generously. But again, you can turn this into a pie, you can turn it into tarts, whatever you want. So that is the blueberry and rhubarb crostata. I think you'll enjoy it. Now, before I sign off for today, I just wanted to remind listeners that on Monday, June 26th, the episode will be dedicated entirely to Ask Shannon questions. So you guys are the ones who are going to dictate the topics, and we're going to talk about everything. Now, I would love to hear from you. What do you want answers to? You can ask about anything that I talk about on this podcast or on the blog, from love to life to food to fashion to travel, anything at all. If it's something that I think listeners would enjoy getting an answer to, I will put it on the episode. So email me, askshannon@thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. I need your emails by June the 21st, which is a Wednesday. So send those Ask Shannon emails to me. You can even send an audio file. I would love to have your voice on the episode as well. And on one last blog food note, the Simply Luxurious Life spring capsule menu was just released over the weekend. It's completely free. It's a download. It organizes an entire week's worth of meals from breakfast to dinner. And it takes the Simply Luxurious Life capsule approach with regards to buying items that can function in multiple recipes throughout the week. They're all simple recipes that have been shared here on the blog. One of them is just the dessert you heard about. And it also keeps in mind a healthy approach to eating, but it doesn't get rid of the flavor. So you're going to see dark chocolate truffles, which we talked about on last week's episode, number 155, incorporated, but you're also going to see healthy, a lot of arugula, salads, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, all from the season of spring. So you're buying local, buying fresh, so full of flavor. The download's free. You'll see it on the show notes. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast, where I'll recommend a book, a film, or a recipe, anything that has a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, stop by the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up the book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide. To stay caught up on the most recent podcasts, blog posts, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or your morning coffee, just in time to jumpstart the weekend. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!